already, before we launched a token, right? We launched a tabletop version in October 2022. We've launched 3 full new card set expansions, each with thousands and thousands of new cards and, limitless, literally limitless numbers of permutations of decks. We have sold over 1 million unique decks into the market. We had the free to play version on PC. We have it on Mac. We have we launched a algorithmically generated campaign in the game. So every single time you play, you can take your deck into a PvE campaign, level it up, get new unique abilities, battle monsters. We launched a second full algorithmically generated campaign that's different every time you play it. We launched in-app tournaments. We launched achievements. We launched badges. All this stuff we just did already, and now that is just the beginning.
Well, I guess just to start us off, can you kind of give me your background and the background of SoulForge Fusion and kind of how this got started?
Yeah, man, it is a wild ride beyond belief. So my background personally, I first got into gaming. Well, I mean, I played Dungeons and Dragons when I was a little kid, 13, 14, but I got into Magic the Gathering and I won the U.S. National Championship. So I was the youngest ever U.S. National Champion when I was 17 years old back in 1997. That set off this crazy journey where I traveled around the world playing in tournaments and pro tours and won a world championships a few years later, paid my way through college. This was just dream come true for a little kid.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a wild ride, just total left turn on how my life took. Then I went to law school, which was a terrible idea. And then I dropped out of law school, moved across the country, became a game designer, started working on games for Marvel, DC, World of Warcraft, did lots of collectible games, card games, miniatures games, board games. Eventually, I kind of quit, started my own company. I launched a game called Ascension, which is a deck building game that was a kind of runaway success. And that got me invited to go speak at a PAX Penny Arcade Expo conference, developer conference, the following year. I got to give a talk, which is a real big honor for me. And then I went to go listen to a talk from Richard Garfield. And Richard Garfield is the guy that created Magic the Gathering, the thing that changed my life, the first ever collectible card game, the thing that, changed the whole world. And at the end, I'm sitting there taking notes like everybody else. And at the end of that talk, this is now 2011. There is somebody asked him a question, what's his favorite game right now? And he says, Ascension, my game. And I jump, I literally jump up in the crowd and go, woohoo, like a little kid. And the whole room laughs. But I didn't care. This is it, life goal check, right? And but it gave me my in to go start talking to Richard. And so after I start talking to Richard, and I kid you not, we talked for 3 hours. 3 hours because we both wanted to make the same game. And that game was the very first version of SoulForge. And so this is 2011. Now, to give you a sense of how long Richard and I have been working on this project. So we launched the first version back then. A couple years later, we did a crowdfund. It was the very first TCG on mobile, the first trading card game on mobile. So ahead of Hearthstone and Magic Arena and all that stuff. So we launched it, ran it for several years. It was awesome. Eventually we had to sunset that and we were looking for a way to bring it back. And one of the things that really called to me was the idea of building something that lasts forever, right? The idea that every one of my physical board games and tabletop games, even if we stop making it, you still have it. But when a digital game shuts off, gone forever, right? And you lose your collection, you lose your identity, you lose everything. And so the promise of, we created the first hybrid deck game, which is a physical, digitally printed, one-of-a-kind decks that tech didn't exist before. And all of those can be scanned into an online collection and now turned into NFTs and exist on the blockchain and have an entire kind of community that can live well beyond Richard and I. And so having that come full circle and be able to relaunch and create this thing now, sorry for the long-winded story, but I'm super, it's like a dream come true for my kind of life arc. So excited to share and talk more about it.
No, that was amazing. So I used to play for a couple of years. I played MTG with my friends. We played Commander. So I'm very familiar with it and the style and that's amazing. That's crazy that you have gone on to win multiple tournaments. I used to follow those pretty closely. It's awesome. Okay. So you have this game idea. You and Richard have this game idea, SoulForge, and you guys have been working on it for a long time. And you want to make it, so when you say you want to make it so that the digital lasts forever, it's kind of like, is it Black Lotus? That's the really expensive, yeah. So it's kind of like, right now, let's talk about Magic the Gathering. You have these digital, online games you could play, but the cards don't accrue value in the same way the physical cards do. But there isn't really a good reason for that because actually, if you think about it, it's far easier to sell a digital card than a physical one. Because, a physical one, you got to get graded, you got to take care of it. There's actually this huge thing. Or a digital one, you can sell it on a global marketplace and you don't have to worry about some of these things. Like it's easy to authenticate. And so, you know, they should retain just as much value. And you see this with like NFTs selling for like $8 million, right? They're just PFPs. Like, why wouldn't a trading card be able to accrue as much value? And so that's kind of like some of the concept behind SoulForge being built, you know, on in Web3.
Yeah, that's right. Like SoulForge Fusion, which is the version that we've launched, you know, just a few months ago, and now has all of the Web3 elements. I'm pushing back against what I see as a story of greed, to be perfectly honest, right? Like the TCG model was revolutionary because the value. Of course, the company that makes the game sells the product and makes money, but the most of the value actually accrued to the users, right? If you bought a Black Lotus out of $3.99 pack of cards, and you have something that's worth, you know, millions of dollars now, like that went to you. Like Wizards of the Coast, the company that made it, doesn't make any extra money. And so what they did when they made Magic Arena, and you know this because when they made the very first version of Magic Online, you could trade cards and sell cards. Like it was a little bit of a gray market, black market. And then when they made the new version that was their flagship, they said, no, we'll take all of that. You can't actually trade cards. You can't sell cards. So everything you earn in a game, everything you buy in a game, for whether it's, you know, money spent, time spent, whatever, that's locked in their little sandbox, and they make all of the money. And I believe that like a community, because TCGs, like a great game is baseline, right? And Richard's been making games for 40 years. I've been making games for 25 years. Like we're going to make you a great game. Like that part, you know, we know how to do. But what matters for a game to last, stand the test of time, like Magic's been around for 30 years. Ascension's been around. We're celebrating our 15-year anniversary next year. Like we make games that last. That requires a great community. And the community, what Web3 allows is for the community to accumulate that value, right? The value of your NFTs going up, the value of your tokens going up, any of those things that exist, we all benefit together. And I love that because I want to build something that's going to stand the test of time. I'm not here to like launch a game that lasts for a year and goes away. That's just not interesting to me. And so I think there's something really magical about the way that the community can become everybody that becomes a super fan, right? I mean, you know, you play Magic, you play, you know, Commander, like you're in it. Like that's part of your identity, it's part of who you are. You want to tell all your friends about it, not because you want to make a profit, but it should be that you benefit as you kind of grow with this community.
And well, I think it's some of the experience though too, is that like I know people that love going and buying and opening packs because they might get that card that's worth $100, or they might get that card that's worth $50. And when they do, they're just like over the moon and they're like, I'm buying another one. And so part of that like general experience and feel is that like these cards being able to accrue value. That's actually some of the fun of it. And you haven't had that digitally. You don't like, I think a lot more people would buy Fortnite skins if you could resell them. I think there'd be people that buy every single one because they'd be like, ooh, that one, that's going to be a collectible. And there's a certain joy and fun in the collectible aspect. And that's what you want to bring to this digital game with SoulForge is like the collectibility. And ideally, you know, 20 years from now, people are looking at some of these early cards and they're like, oh my gosh, you have a blank card that's worth $300,000 today. That's crazy that you got that.
That's right. And with SoulForge Fusion, we've actually, you know, we've evolved it even further, right? Because in a traditional, just to differentiate us slightly from a traditional TCG, right, we're all collecting the same set of cards. Some are more rare than others, but like, you know, there's whatever, a couple thousands of Black Lotuses and millions of whatever, Wastelands, whatever the different cards are. And whereas with SoulForge Fusion, we algorithmically generate individual decks of cards that are all one of ones. And so you might have like a Black Lotus type card in your deck, of which, you know, other people could have that, but you're the only one that has that specific deck, that specific combination. And so the fusion in SoulForge Fusion is you to pick any two of these unique decks, fuse them together to form the deck that you play. So you can still customize your deck, but you can't just copy what else is out there. And so there's a level of collectability and like amazing. You could find that perfect combination of cards that nobody else in the world has. That's like super exciting. And then one other piece that comes with it is because we track everything that happens as part of the NFT, as part of the collectible, you level up your deck by playing it in tournaments. Or if you play in our storyline tournaments, we actually have writers that will tag custom stories to your deck that then change the world of SoulForge and like change what cards are available in future releases. And so like these decks become really legendary, one-of-a-kind collectibles. It's something that nobody else has ever been able to do before.
That's crazy. Okay, so going back to Magic the Gathering, I think it's been out since the 90s or whatever. So was that like 30 years, 34 years, or around 30 years. And if you imagine 30 years in the future, like the world's gonna be a lot different place. And you guys are building this game, like you've had physical, but like also digital. And I think there are certain things you can do digitally that you just can't do physically, just because, you know, like maybe it's too cumbersome or whatever. And I would imagine, maybe this is way out there, but I would imagine like with Facebook doing their, like, have you seen their VR like glasses that Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes.
Yeah, like two friends getting together and like, okay, let's play. And it's physical in person, but it's also digital, right? And I don't think that's as far away as people think it is. And it opens up all these different, I don't know, all these different like realms and like places that some of these games can go.
Yeah, yeah. So I have been fascinated by this sort of boundary and like place between the physical and digital for a very long time, right? So we've taken our game, tabletop game Ascension, we've made a VR version of it, which is kind of wild because you're in this full immersive world and looking around and seeing cards flying around you. I have played with like Jordan Weissman is one of our advisors, and he made BattleTech and Shadowrun. He built some of these like immersive interactive games where you're scanning things on the board and traveling around. Like I have like finding the place where that you get the best of both worlds is something that is just like I'm very interested in, and a lot of attempts have been made and none of them have landed yet because the tech just hasn't been there. And so what you're talking
It's not there
about,
yet.
this idea of like, okay, maybe I just have the glasses on, you have the glasses on, and we're playing a game of chess or whatever in between us. There, nobody else can see what the hell we're doing, but we can see it. That's one piece of it. But there's also something about the tactile nature of like shuffling a deck of cards, or I actually have next to me, I've got like all these cool like miniatures from one of our new miniatures games that's coming out soon. And like there's something about the physicality of it that I don't think is going away, even though you may have like magical virtual worlds that we can all play in. And so finding that space in between where you can get the best of both worlds is something I'm very excited about. And that's what Soulforge Fusion is trying to do, right? You can still buy physical decks in the store, in local game stores. You can still play the game physically without ever touching the digital side, but every deck is a QR code that lets you scan into the digital account. And the same thing, you can play digital and like play the classic Web 2 game free to play on Steam, and you could just play it in just like a regular game and not worry about trading or selling or anything. And that's cool. And then you can join the Web3 world, and now all of a sudden you've got the ability to like unlock that value and trade cards. And then we're going to have the community be able to vote on like what, and have governance over what future events we hold and what things happen, right? Like you mentioned Commander, which I think is a great example, right? For those who don't know, Commander is like a fan created format for Magic the Gathering. Like it was resisted by the official like Wizards of the Coast Magic team for like a decade before finally
Yeah.
they're like, okay, well, whatever. They're forcing us to make this thing. Whereas I think the community should be able to do that. So like of the token, the SFG token we created, over a third of it is just community controlled to be able to reward different types of tournaments and new types of development and build out like different sub communities. Because I think while I do believe that game design shouldn't be like crowdsourced, I think that's a skill like, you know, I've worked on for years. I do think community building and events and how you kind of grow that, that's what something the community should control. I think that's another really exciting aspect of like how you bring the best of like the tabletop world. Because again, in Magic and tabletop, anybody could run a tournament. Anybody could come up with house rules, right? Nobody could stop you. In digital, that's not the case. And I think giving players agency here can also help like bridge that gap, the best of tabletop into digital.
Okay, you covered a lot of things. I want to go into all of those things. What I was trying to highlight is I think exactly what you said. There's some people that are just like, hey, trading card games, they're always going to be physical. They're always going to be like this. Where I look back 3 years ago, we weren't talking about AI. And today I can generate like, images that you can't tell weren't taken by a human, videos that look really, really good, and full length songs. I don't know if you've seen the song stuff, but it's crazy. It's like my wife can't tell it's not from like a normal artist. And if we've gone that far in 3 years, like just imagine over the next 30 years where things will go. And I really think there will be a transition period from physical to some form of digital, just because the convenience of like, it is, think about how many games you start up and it's like 30 minutes to get the game started as everyone's shuffling. Maybe they're building their deck. You have that one guy that always takes like extra long as he's like looking for like, the three cards he's going to trade out in his deck. And imagine if you could just like be like, okay, let's play. And it's just there and it's going.
Yep.
And I think that convenience will capture people. And I think there's all kinds of weird ways to like, games are going to monetize this where like, you'll have cosmetic items where like you as a player will like you'll look a certain way because of the cosmetic items you've unlocked. So maybe you're like got this crazy pirate garb and it's like virtually laid over you. Like there's all kinds of fun, weird, creative things that you think you can do. And so I'm more trying to point that like, I think the future is this direction, and it's up only from here. Like virtual games are up only from here and only going to gain in demand as time goes on. You mentioned governance. And the idea that the players get to decide how the game kind of goes forward using using the SFG token. Can you go into more detail about that?
Yeah, so it's something that it's not live yet, and we're going to roll it out over time, right? So early stages, we're going to be putting out proposals for our organized play program and for events and things that we want to run, and we're going to let the players vote on it using their with the holders of the SFG and the NFTs and participants. We'll do that, and then over time, we're going to create a system where the players themselves will be able to create those proposals and help dictate how we're rewarding, how that fund is being distributed, what's being done with it. So it's a significant portion of the value of the game and how the game develops will be in the player's hands, and we're going to kind of move towards that decentralization over time. And again, it's important. I think it's in essence, we're designing a game in itself. You mentioned earlier this idea that the game of opening up packs and being able to get really cool, exciting, high value things is part of the fun, and that's absolutely right. And I think of tokenomics design and governance design as a game in and of itself, right? We're trying to build something that accrues value, yes, but also allows players to incentivizes them to spend in ways that are fun, incentivizes that give them a feeling of agency over the things that we think players are best at, which is again deciding how do you grow the community, what are the best types of tournaments to run, what people are contributing the most to the community. It could be streamers, it could be organizers. Like those people need to be rewarded, and it shouldn't just be top down like me saying how those things go. It should be the players and those that are most active and engaged that are the ones doing it. And that's like a kind of philosophical belief I've had for a long time that we're able to kind of bring to life through this game.
Yeah, kind of like should this overpowered card be banned in this format, or should we launch this new format, that kind of stuff, those kind of decisions. And
yeah, exactly. And I mean, I could talk about banning cards in that process because we actually have some clever solutions around that problem specifically. But the idea, it's like when it comes down from on high that this format is no longer supported or this card is banned or whatever, like even if it's a good decision, like people riot in the streets. I mean, like you've seen this through Magic recently, like anybody that's plays like it's like, and often they make bad decisions, but even if it's a good decision, people are upset because they don't have a voice, and it really impacts them, right? Like, I mean, like if you had this card and it got banned, like you just, people lose thousands of dollars. People have like their whole decks and strategies and things it's serious. So I think that the process matters as much as the result, and building a process that helps people feel engaged and connected to what's happening, I think it serves the community in the long run.
Yeah, I could see that. Especially with like reprints and different things like that too. That always gets people riled up, is like, their card's worth $1,000 and then they're going to reprint a bunch more of them and, devalue it. People hate that. So I think if you can, get more community involvement, I think you'll ultimately just end up with a better game too, because feedback is a lot quicker versus releasing something than having to wait for the feedback after you've already made the mistake.
Oh my God. And especially when in the physical game world, it's like even further, right? Because we have to design the game like a year before you see it to then get it to the artists and get it to the printer and get it shipped and get it distributed and get it out. And like by the time like the community sees a problem, like we are so far behind the curve on that. So like it's much, much harder. Whereas now with this digital world, not only we could share things and have decisions and build in the open, which is what we've done this whole time, right? I mean, we launched the physical version of the game for the first time in October 2022, and we didn't launch the free-to-play like early access version until August of this year. And we've been open and developing in public, and we crowdfunded originally. So like I've been a believer in this philosophy, and I think it's awesome to just like, again, be open with your community. Like we're going to make mistakes. I promise. Like we're going to do our best not to, but we're going to. But we're going to be open about it. We're going to listen, and I think that makes a big difference. And I think it's why people have come along for the ride with us. I mean, and I'll tell you, like you could see it from some of our Steam reviews and things too. Like when we first announced we were going Web3, like people rioted in the streets. People were so like there's still that distrust from a lot of frankly good reasons of people that were not not genuine and kind of not good games. And so we had to, but we were very open. I was out front. I did a lot of, podcasts and spaces and AMAs, and we have our very active Discord, and we talked through it all, and we brought the community along with us. And now, some of those people who were the most like the super fans of the game that were adamant against Web3 have now put down payments on their house because they were a part of this community. So it's been a fun journey to watch. Obviously that's not, but yeah, it's been exciting to see. And I just think that ability to build a community and build trust with the community because of who we are and because we're honest when we mess up and we're trying to, that it makes all the difference.
Who's helping you guys with the crypto side of things? Like who's making sure that you guys are, secure, you're getting audited, that you're not making like some of these classic mistakes that, we've all experienced and lived through. can you maybe give us some background on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason, so I've been, kind of enthusiastic and kind of in crypto since 2017. I built a game back then, just for fun called Block Brawlers, and just kind of understanding what could happen in this space. But I'm not like the crypto expert, right? The crypto expert on our team is
Yeah.
this guy John. He was actually the co-founder and was the chief operating officer of Shapeshift, which is one of the largest,
Okay.
earliest exchanges. And he also transitioned it to a DAO, right? So be able to not only launch and manage one of the earliest kind of exchanges and manage, deep in that space, but also understanding and managing the process of decentralizing and how you build systems that work and how you make sure that's all audited and safe. So he is the guru that we have brought on board. And funny background story here. The only reason that we met is because he sent a message through our customer service portal at stoneblade.com, like, "Hey, I played the original version of SoulForge. I think this would make a really cool Web3 game." And he had listed kind of his background a bit. And my customer support rep said, "Hey, I don't know if this is a thing, but you should take a look." And I was like, "Okay, whatever, I'll give it a call." And then, we ended up becoming like super close friends. He's a great dude, like knows his stuff, and so that's what gave me the confidence to be like, okay, we can do this. We've got the expertise to make this happen.
I mean, I think he's right. I mean, it won't happen in a year or 2 years or 3 years, but I think give it the next 5 years, 10 years. I think this is the kind of game that will eventually dethrone something like Magic the Gathering, because like I said, I think digital is the future, and because there's just so much more you can do with it. And people are just transitioning more and more of their time there. And again, the first one that nails it down, it's just if I can start a game in 5 seconds versus starting a game in 50 minutes, it's just a convenience thing, Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And again, this is why, like, I think whether, I'm not arguing the point of like, is everything going to go to digital? Is everything going to be virtual? When does that happen? How does that happen? That's not important. But what's important is exactly what you said. It's like, how do you get the values of that? And so I can just boot up a game, play it in 5 minutes, have a great time, and then go do something else. Or I can also have the benefit of like, hey, let's all get together and do like a real like tournament and get together and all get a convention and hang out and like have those rich communities. Because again, I grew up playing Magic professionally, but it wasn't the money that's like, or even the game, frankly, that's what like got the most value. It was the friendships, man. It was like the getting together with friends, and we would meet up every couple months in some different country and somewhere in the world, and we'd hang out with our homies. And those are the homies I kept like to this day. And some of them are in my company here now still, so like that building relationships, again, it's all community. It always comes back to community. So we put a lot of intention into how we built Soulforge Fusion, because you can do both. You could do it all, right? We're going to a convention for PAX, which again, the Origin Story PAX Unplugged coming December 5th, I think. Well, I will be there. We're going to do a physical tournament storyline event. We're going to have some pretty cool splashy things happening for anybody that can be out there. And we're going to do a digital version of it that'll be launching over the holidays. So we can do, I think that people being able to get everything from the same collection. Again, your physical collection, your digital collection is all one-to-one. And so that ability that you can have the convenience of boot up and play, and the camaraderie of let's all get together and play, I think is like a magical formula. And then next year we'll be on mobile as well, so you can have the even faster like 2-minute experience of jumping on.
Dang.
So we're really trying to be be everything everywhere all at once.
So what is you kind of mentioned tokenomics a little bit, and I actually think as a game designer you have a weird leg up of maybe even some of these crypto native finance guys when it comes to tokenomics, because tokenomics is almost just designing a different kind of game, and a different reward systems and making sure you're balancing it and everything. So what are the current tokenomics for SFG? Like, how have you guys built it? How is SFG token used? Is it just reward token? Is there ways for it to get back in the system? Kind of go into that.
Yeah. So for those that want like full details, we have a Gitbook link, which maybe we can share, in the show notes or whatever, anybody that wants to dig in. But I'll go into as much detail as we want here. Just the SFG token is a total limited supply. It's 100 million tokens in total. We distributed a bunch of them in an initial airdrop. We have 2 more airdrops planned over the course of the next year to people who are players of the game and communities and fun stuff like that, to kind of just give it out and get it into the community. Players will have the opportunity to earn from playing. Of course, we'll have the ability to earn from tournaments, and the community pool, how the community pool gets distributed, which again is about 1/3 of that total tokens, will be up to the community ultimately. Now, what are the ways that you can use tokens? Why are tokens valuable? How does they get back into the system? Because obviously, if you're just giving away tokens, not a good formula.
Yeah.
So we've continued to add more functionality over time. So first, we launched with the only way for you to mint an NFT is to burn the token. So the token gets
Okay.
completely burned when you do that. And that allows you to turn your deck into an NFT. So any normal kind of deck in your collection, whether you scanned it in physically or you just bought it through a Web 2 mechanism or you just opened it for free to play, you can burn an SFG, turn it into an NFT. So that's like the core utility of the token. And then over time, we've added more and more utility as we go forward. So you can now also buy packs, and you get a discounted rate to the normal US dollar price by using the token to buy packs. You can also I think we just launched this week the ability to buy other in-game currencies and other assets, same sort of thing. We'll do tournament entry fees. We'll do other things that like support the ecosystem. So basically the same kind of model where you're going to be putting things in and out of the system where we are going to create awesome new stuff. We will sell it to you for SFG. That will bring it into the system. The SFG will be distributed out through governance, the community-based rewards, token rewards, play rewards, airdrops, and tournaments and prizes and things like that. So that's kind of at a high level what we're up to.
Okay.
And that should give you a relatively clear picture.
No, that makes sense. Like if you imagine Magic the Gathering just doing this exact same thing, they make billions and billions every year. Imagine like the currency of Magic the Gathering was SFG or like MTG. I guess that's probably what it'd be. Then you can imagine like there'd be a lot of that token getting burned.
Exactly.
And there'd be a lot of demand and use of it. And that makes total sense to me. I know right now lots of the tokens are locked up. There's like a pretty high difference between the supply currently unlocked and the supply that's eventually going to hit the market. I think when I did the math, it's like 20% is unlocked ish right now, and a year from now it should be around 28% unlocked. And I don't know if you know this off the top of head, but I guess I just want to check that that's correct. That about 8% of the supply hits the market over the next year. And then kind of just ask, how does the rest of that hit the market? Like you mentioned the community fund, that's a huge portion of it. The community votes on that. Is that something you expect to hit the market? Like, the community is just going to dump that in the market over the next couple of years, or you're like, no, this is supposed to last decades.
Yeah. This is intended to last decades. Again, the idea is the access to that fund will slowly unlock over time. And again, we do have like a full unlock of that kind of hard unlock availability and projected unlocks all available on the Gitbook page. So we're very transparent about this. Obviously, some of it's estimates, right? But the idea is that the community fund, I think it would be a disaster if we're just like, okay, community, you now have access to 33 million SFG. Have fun. Bye. Like that's just. I mean, come on.
Forever sell pressure.
Yeah. No. So that fund will unlock slowly over time as we transition more authority to the community, as we experiment with different ways of letting people hear their voice and see like nobody has this figured out yet, right? Like this is something that is like needs to be like so it's going to unlock in stages over time as we transfer more governance, as we experiment with more different governance roles. So we're very conscious of that being something that needs to be done thoughtfully, be carefully over time. And so then that piece, so we have 22% of our fund is designed for airdrop. I think, as we mentioned, I think only like, and don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I think it's like 8% or something or less that was actually distributed in this first run. We'll be doing more over the course of the next year. And that will fund, again, for people supporting people who are playing, for people who are supporting the thing. And then the bulk of that, the remainder is the community pool that's still going to be, again, slowly unlocked over time. We kept a very relatively small percentage to our own internal team. Between team and investors and things that are available, it's less than 15% of the total fund, I think, is what we had distributed. And then we're using a 10% of the fund to support liquidity mining, which is important to talk about because that's been a great way for people to be able to participate and earn yield on Radium. And so that's a way to help, again, build initial liquidity. People can get a yield for participating. And so that's about 10% of the fund has been reserved for that. Again, it'll be paced out over the next, year or so.
When I was looking at it, you're saying about 8% has been distributed. And I'm trying to find the link right now. I had it earlier. But you're saying that 8% of it has been distributed currently. But I feel like on one of those charts, it showed it starting at 20% unlocked, and then over the course of the next year, hitting about 28%.
Yeah. So
but you're saying it's only 8% unlocked right now.
Yeah. So what happened is we did a community airdrop, and frankly, if those that are listening, you might have an airdrop waiting. So there was we did about 20% was possible in the airdrop to be claimed. Most of it did not get claimed. So there's as of December I'm pretty sure December 5th. And again, the exact dates, but we had 3 months to let people claim the airdrop from our launch. That most people have not claimed to date. So I will say, so for those that want to grab some of our free free airdrop availability, if you were a Solana holder, and this was all checked back in August, I believe, if you had 25 or more Sol in your Solana account, you're eligible for an airdrop. If you are a Axie Infinity player, Parallels player, Gaussian Chain player, or Star Atlas player, there were minimum thresholds. If you got those, we airdropped to you. I think, and of course, all the SoulForge Fusion players and original SoulForge players all received significant airdrops, but most people didn't claim. So what we're going to do is we're going to claw anything that's not claimed back, and we're going to do another distribution for the people that are playing and paying attention.
Got it. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out, mostly from a trader perspective, is I'm looking at the market cap right now, sitting at about 2 million market cap, and I'm wanting to know how much that's going to get inflated, how much inflation is going to happen over the course of the next year. And I'm just trying to kind of figure that out. So is that 2 million number accounting for 20% unlocked or only 8%? Do you know the details on that?
Because, so I'm looking at the chart right now. So we have the fully diluted valuation of the market cap at today's value, which is about 85 cents a coin. Is like we have 100 million, so it's 85 million is fully diluted total token pool, and we have about 3.3 million of that in circulation right now. So you're looking at less than 8% now. You're talking about whatever 5% or so that's available right now. Of that, that's and I'm just looking at hit the deck screener here for the thing, which I can share with you if you want. Which chat here? Maybe I don't know how to post it in the chat in this thing, so never mind. Anyway, I don't know how to share this link, unfortunately, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen it on deck screener. So you're saying right now of the supply, it's like less than 8% that's live, and it's going to depend on essentially how many people claim. But if they don't claim, you're going to maybe do more airdrops with that. Is that like kind of locked in? That geez, it just jumped up a ton.
If they don't claim, this morning it's jumped a ton.
Yeah, you're going to do more airdrops with it, or are you guys set on that, or is there a possibility it gets like rolled over in the community fund?
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where basically, as we want to very very carefully manage the amount of kind of inflation rate, right? So we want to make sure that there is until the community fund is fully up and running, we're in essence using the airdrops to kind of help continue to grow the community and continue to reward players and people who are engaged and things like that. So as the community fund ramps up, and if that is sufficient and can handle that process, then I would certainly be open to just rolling any unclaimed airdrop into the community fund overall. But for right now, I view the airdrop as kind of our, I don't know if stopgap's the right word, or kickoff fund to help make sure that there's sufficient liquidity and help make sure there's sufficient, attraction of new users and bringing people into our community, because that's the goal, right? We want to keep growing the thing. So we're using it judiciously to grow the community. Once the community is sufficiently functional as its own governance, the community fund should take over that role.
Maybe to go a little bit more in depth, when I was looking at it, I was looking at over the course of the next year, and I was thinking it was 57 cents when I was looking at it. It's now 85. But, if it was at 20% right now and it went up to 28, it represents about say like nobody bought in, that would be a 20% drop in price, which isn't a big deal at the inflation rate on the website. But if it's going from like sub 8% all the way to 28% in the next year, that's actually a much more buying that has to happen just to even stay kind of flat. And so I'm trying to get a feel for how those tokens will hit the market, because if a ton of tokens aren't going to hit the market over the next year, then in my opinion, I'm like, okay, that's bullish, because or I guess I'm trying to get a relative valuation of like what is actually the market cap in a year if like nobody else came in, right? If nobody else came in, earlier when I was looking at it, it was like 2.7 million, and if nobody else came in, it went up to like 3 point something million, based off the dilution from new tokens hitting the market. Where versus if it goes from 8% to 28%, that's a lot more dilution, so that the relative market cap adjusts a lot more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what I hear you saying is there's the concern around, obviously, if we in essence flood the market with new tokens and there's not buyers or burn, there's no too many faucets, not enough sinks, right? Is the way I think about this in terms of token value in terms of a normal TCG, right?
Yes.
I built virtual economies a ton, right? And so I'm making, again, I'm not making any promises about future token price. I just want to be clear about that. But like, that's up to you
Of
guys to
course.
decide. But we are very conscious of making sure that we don't have too many faucets and not enough sinks. Like, actually, what we're focused on right now, to be perfectly honest, like I I believe that we have a great core game and a great core community. I'm focused on building a better new player like on ramp and starting like we have barely begun to market and bring new players into this game, right? We are at like we're still working through the initial kinks of the system. We launched in the token just launched in September. So my focus is grow this community like 10x over the next 6 to 8 months. Like that's what I am focused on. And we are very conscious that we're not going to, insofar as our airdrops and functionally serve that purpose, then we will do that. If they don't, we will not. Right? We have full control over the sort of quantities of that. Um, and so we had allotted this 20% of the fund. We did an initial airdrop at that amount. I believe at this point we'll have less than half of that will be totally claimed by the time we're done, and then we'll assess as we grow how we're going to distribute that to continue that positive pressure towards growing the community.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So airdrops were like a huge meta in 2020, early 2024, and 2023. They're a huge meta. It actually was like very attractive when you had an airdrop. You brought in a lot of people to come actually use whatever you're doing. But that's actually slowed down quite a bit. So where in early 2024 and in 2023, airdrops were a massive meta. It's almost flipped where like everyone that's airdropping, its community sentiment has like almost has been very negative on a lot of the recent airdrops. And I'm almost like waiting for the new meta to emerge because it's airdrops now. Last cycle it was basically whitelists, which was this whole little meta, and then the cycle before that it was ICOs, and yeah, so I guess what I'm hearing you say is it's all about like getting more people involved in the project, and if that changes and you're like, hey, actually airdrops aren't working in the way that we're hoping, then you guys will shift that strategy, and just focus on whatever's going to bring the most value to the ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the point of like having a token like this, is to help distribute value to the community and encourage that community to grow. That's like why this thing would exist, right? Like, so we are very conscious of using it tactically. We'll be launching very soon, and we're going to have a full roadmap update. We have it internally. We're just kind of prettying it up, and I'll have a full roadmap update that will be launching at the beginning of December before we go to do our live events at PAX Unplugged. So people can see, and again, I'll do a live stream, talk about the roadmap, get people's feedback, so you can see the kinds of things that we're planning, the kinds of events and new features, and how this is all going to play out. Because again, as we talked earlier, like I want this to be a very public-facing thing, and I think that this strategy will continue to evolve. As you said, like what's going to influence and motivate people the most, what's going to bring people in the most. That's what like we're excited to be doing. And I think the idea of just like airdrop for nothing, or kind of when you have no economy and you have nobody existing, was super important. As we've grown, like frankly way faster in sort of overall value accumulation than I expected, we now have a lot more tools at our disposal, and we would be very cautious about just kind of, we're not going to just throw another 20% of the airdrop out into the pool. We're talking about, that's crazy.
Well, I would consider, if I was you guys, whatever's left over people don't claim, either consider, I think for you guys it'd be most bullish if you either consider burning that as like kind of like a public event, or just rolling it over into the community fund. Either of those things would be my advice, because I think it's more bullish to start from a really tiny market cap, and as momentum ramps up, it's like the ultimate marketing, right? Number go up is always the ultimate marketing. It just brings in a lot of attention, a lot of people paying attention, and a lot of the issues we've been seeing in the market is these high FTV tokens where they're launching at really high market caps, and then the supply just keeps unlocking and nobody wants to touch them. And they've actually lost a lot of their hype because of it, because number go down is like the ultimate like negative marketing. Like people, even if you build the greatest product ever, like nobody wants to touch it.
Yeah.
So that balance can be kind of fickle. Okay, cool. So I understand all that. I understand the tokenomics. I think that's like a good use of the token. You mentioned the roadmap. What does the roadmap look like? I think with a lot of these projects, people get concerned that they're going to get developed for like a year. You're going to cash out, go live in your super yacht in the Bahamas, and that's it. And but it sounds like you have this really long-term vision of like, no, man, we got expansions on sets on expansions on sets for like, this is a multi-decade endeavor to build one of the greatest trading card games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it almost as well as I could, man. Great. Yeah. No, you're right. Look, we did things super backwards for Web3, right? Most Web3 communities, they're like, all right, we got a cool thing we're going to make. Let's launch a token and then we'll make a thing. And like, I did the opposite. I made an awesome thing and then only came to Web3 and launched a token later, right? And I believe the way I do the thing is better, but like, we're crazy in this world, which is really funny to me. Like, already before we launched a token, right? We launched a tabletop version in October 2022. We've launched 3 full new card set expansions, each with thousands and thousands of new cards and, literally limitless numbers of permutations of decks. We have sold over 1 million unique decks into the market. We had the free to play version on PC. We had it on Mac. We have we launched a algorithmically generated campaign in the game. So every single time you play, you can take your deck into a PvE campaign, level it up, get new unique abilities, battle monsters. We launched a second full algorithmically generated campaign that's different every time you play it. We launched in-app tournaments. We launched achievements. We launched badges. All this stuff we just did already. And now that is just the beginning. Like my long-term, going forward roadmap, we want to be able to, as I mentioned, we're going to, iOS, we're going to Android, we're launching a whole new, new user kind of experience, tutorial experience. Cause if I'm honest, it's a little bit hard to get into the game right now. There's a few things I want to fix in terms of how we teach you everything. I think is really important. We have a new expansion that's already kind of we have pretty much done. We're probably going to be launching, I'm not going to give an exact date yet because you're getting me to spoil stuff. We have, full offline play. We have our tournament, World to Road Championships tournament qualifier series. We have a bunch of new awesome animations and sounds. If you played our new Scorchworm Dragon campaign, you can see the dragon flying over the board and lighting things on fire. We have a ton more stuff like that, a lot of the polish that we didn't get a chance to do. Friend referral program, using the ability. Right now, you can take your physical decks and scan them into a digital account. You can buy native digital decks, but you can't take your digital decks and turn them into physical decks. We're going to have a physical order print on demand service that we're going to be launching next year. So you can take your NFTs, print them, and play them in a physical tournament as well. New updated collection management, inventory screens, NFT based cosmetics. We have a massive leaderboards, tons of stuff that we're building, and then new card releases, every couple of months, just like Magic does, or that's the thing. It's our bread and butter. We do that forever. And so that ability to have a pipeline of never ending awesome content, continuous improvement, expansion to new platforms, all that stuff is on the roadmap. And, we'll have, I'll share more of the details soon, but you got a pretty good little teaser spoiler here.
That was incredible. Do you guys plan to build this out as is this just card game, or you guys wanting to build a full IP out and brand?
Well,
think Dungeons and Dragons kind of feel like they have an entire IP and brand, or Pokemon entire IP and brand, or is it you really just want to focus on the game, and if that comes later, that's amazing. But it's more specific to just the game.
No, man, I'm here. I love building awesome, engaging, cool worlds, right? So Ascension has been around for 15 years. We're actually working with writers to help bring this, build a kind of a little mini animated series around it. I built a story arc that has evolved to the test of time and has characters that people love that we can bring into other universes. Soulforge Fusion, same thing. Again, we've got over a decade of story building that we've done. And if you go to soulforgefusion.com/story, you can see our animations around it. You can see the stories. And the thing that's the coolest for me about Soulforge is you can also participate. By playing in our storyline tournaments, we're having one at PAX Unplugged. We've got some really cool surprises planned for that one. And if you participate in the event, then you change the course of the world. And the Forgeborn, the main characters, your commander basically, that you play, can go up or down in the standings, can dominate or get or lose position in the world of Solace. And we will write custom stories about you and your deck. They'll be attached to the NFT of your deck. It will dictate what cards show up in future sets and which factions shift. Those that played online in our Scorchworm campaign, that the faction that won got to decide whether Scorchworm lived or died, and whether they would join that faction, and all that stuff. So we're building a world that you can tell incredible stories in, that we want to be multimedia over time, but that is more immersive and connected to the players than anything that's ever existed before. And it's that part, it just lights me up. I mean, as you probably can tell, it's the thing I always wanted when I was playing. That's what we built.
The creative foundation of this game is just huge, and there's a lot of room and things to add to it, and things you could have never done before. And it sounds like that's really exciting to you, and that's exciting to me too, to hear that. It's just there's so many cool, interesting things that could be built, And I think the possibilities only expand as time goes on, and as things shift. One thing that I'm really excited about is like there's a couple crypto card games that have been out and they've done really well. A Gods Unchained I think hit like a couple 100 million or 100 and something million last cycle. Parallels hit like close to $1 billion this cycle, and in the bear market. And both of them, like their selling point is we're trying to be the next Magic the Gathering. And here you guys come. You got the creator of Magic the Gathering. You got like one of the top players of Magic the Gathering coming together to build this completely new kind of like a game. I've never seen a game like this before. And man, I'm really pumped on what you guys are building. And just from like a gaming standpoint, it just seems like it's a lot of fun. And you guys are real players. You're not here to, you're not just here to like make some money. You're like you're creators first. And I get that sense from you. I can just like feel it. Like you like creating things and like cool. We might make some money along the way, and that'd be awesome. But you're excited to build.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Right. So our company motto, we repeat this every week at our team meetings: work with awesome people, make awesome things, help each other grow. Like that's the philosophy that drives my life. That's the philosophy that drives the company. Like I want to surround myself with people that light me up and lift me up. I want to be doing the same to them. I want to build whatever we think is the coolest thing. Like I don't know if it's we could do it here because we're just a podcast, whatever. But I will show you these like badass dragon figures that we just got made, and I have the earliest sample of. I'm about to do a box opening here later of these just cool figures that battle each other. Like our Ascension universe got turned into these like cool 3D miniatures figures through a game called Ascension Tactics. Like it's just so freaking cool. So I love building this stuff. Right, Richard doesn't need to make any money anymore. He's stupid rich. He doesn't, he loves making stuff. I'm not as rich as Richard, but I can make money plenty of ways. I'm here because I think this is something that I love. And yes, absolutely, I like making money too. Don't get me wrong, but but I think it's we're here because we're here to build. I'm here, and I'm not here to. I only build things that I think can stand the test of time, right? The projects we have worked on SoulForge Fusion for no kidding, 13 years. Ascension has been around for 15 years. Magic's been around for 30 years. Like I don't build games for, that are designed to be, played one and done. Like that's just not interesting to me.
Well, hey, I haven't actually even got to play SoulForge Fusion yet. I'm excited. I want to sit down with my brother-in-law. He's played it once. He said he loved it. So we want to sit down and we want to play it. I want to play it this weekend. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm excited what you guys are building. Is there anything that I missed that we didn't talk about that you're like, ooh, we should definitely talk about this thing because it's amazing?
Yeah, so I mean, we hit a lot of the awesome stuff that I'm excited about. I think like the storyline events and being able to participate in that. I think, what we didn't talk about, because I kind of put a little note on it when you talk about banning cards, right? Like how annoying is it to ban cards in TCGs? Like it sucks, right? Like sometimes you have to do it because the game's broken and it's not fun to play with those banned cards, but it's just like annoying. So we came up with a solution that's, again, not possible in other TCGs. That's something we can do here, which is that the decks, as I mentioned, when you play them in tournaments, they level up as you play them. And the unit of collectibility is not the cards. You can't just buy one of a card. You have to buy it in the context of a deck. And so how the card combos with the other cards in the deck matters. As you level up the deck, you qualify for higher level tournaments. So I can move a deck from bronze ranking to silver ranking to gold ranking, and you need a gold rank deck to play in the world championships. And so that allows me to grow and level up. But at the flip side, what will also happen is as the deck levels up, it actually is not allowed to be played in lower level tournaments. So if I have a gold ranked awesome world championship level deck, I can't just go beat up on the minnows that are jumping into the queues at bronze rank, right? In a low level tournament. And so actually the more powerful decks will evolve over time. And then if you have a thing like and the decks that win the world championships get to platinum status, which is like, the kind of super premium, we give you a massive reward when you get it, it becomes a full collectible, but then doesn't qualify in tournaments anymore. So we actually have a way to evolve your deck, which makes it more valuable and intrinsically has rewards associated with it, and to help protect against the kind of sharks taking out all the minnows in the pool. And so that allows us to evolve decks rather than have to ban cards.
All right. Well, just maybe some disclaimers here. I hold a bunch of SFG. I hold a massive bag of SFG. I'm really bullish on this project. I'm bullish on what's being built, and I think this is something that could last a long time and become something big, and that's why I hold it, and that's why we're doing this podcast. As always, none of this is investment advice. None of this is me telling you to buy this token, or Justin telling you to buy this token, or anything about like speculation on token price or anything like that. This is just really for informational, just talking about, you know, what's being built, all of that kind of stuff. And you should always do your own research, and just know that any crypto investment carries a ton of risk, and, you know, be safe out there.